The Washington football team is going to shock the rest of the league. Absolutely. Full-heartedly, 110.5% believe it. Why? Well, because they've got a lot of things going for them. Specifically with how they've put together themselves in the last couple of years through the draft, the weapons they have on the offensive and the defensive side of the football, arguably the best defensive line in all of the NFL. Before we get into why they're going to shock the rest of the NFL, make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. It helps people find the show. We greatly appreciate all the support that we always get from you guys. But let's get back into it. I know that Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably going to start the rest of the year or the entire year over Taylor Heineke. I get it. Voice crack, I really do. I totally understand it. But I don't think he should. In fact, I think Taylor Heineke has deserved a shot to play the entire season as a starter. I think he's earned it, especially for how he played in that NFC playoff game against the Buccaneers. Again, totally get it. You go with a guy that has a lot of experience. In this case, you go with a guy that you think is going to give you the best chance to win. But I think it's Taylor Heineke. I think that Taylor Heineke has earned a shot to be the starting quarterback of the Washington football team. But let's take a look at the rest of the team here. We've already touched on the defensive line, which again we'll get into in a second because I love this defensive line. But we need to touch on everything else. You talk about a running back in Antonio Gibson. I think he's going to be a top 10 running back next year. J.D. McKissick showing he can catch the football last year. Terry McLaurin, constantly one of the most overlooked and underrated wide receivers in the entire NFL. De'Ami Brown, loved him coming out of North Carolina. Curtis Samuel, also a solid wide receiver that I think, based on his resume and what he did with the Panthers, is going to do some damage, or Van Damage, as my dad used to call it. A guy that had over 14, just in the last 3 seasons, 14 touchdown receptions. A guy that had over 2,000 yards, and had over 850 of which were this last season. And now he's going to a quarterback that is, I'll admit, Ryan Fitzmagic is spotty. But there is no debating that when he's on, he's on. You also got a guy by the name of Adam Humphries who didn't exactly pan out with the Titans, but he'll be back. He'll be back. Even wide receivers like Antonio Gandy Golden, who I think who was an early round draft pick from my recollection last year, who I think could come out this next year and probably shock some people. Or excuse me, he was a 4th round draft pick. So, mid round, excuse me. But I think there's a lot to like about this Washington football team. I think there's a lot that we all need to consider because from where they started to where they are now, I don't think a lot of people thought that they would come this far this quickly. So when we talk about the rest of this team, we have to take into consideration that yes, their offensive line is okay. We understand that. I've kind of have mixed feelings about it. But it's their defensive line that I think is going to be what sets this team apart. We've already talked about Chase Young. I think my bold take was I think he could be the defensive player of the year for 2021. I think he's got the talent. We've talked about Jonathan Allen, who I think is going to come out this next year. We've talked about Daron Payne. We've also talked about Montez Sweat and the fact that I think Chase Young and Montez Sweat are in the conversation for being the best defensive end rushing duo in the entire league. We need to touch on what Jamie Davis is going to do for this football team. Now, I'll admit I had him going a little bit later, but the fact that they took him and they got him, I'm excited for the Washington football team. I think he's going to be a fantastic all-around linebacker. Good size, good coverage ability, flies around, makes plays, and makes tackles. John Bostic, solid linebacker. Cole Holcomb, love him, fell in love with him ever since what I've seen without him. And their corners and safeties are coming together, and to get Benjamin St. Juste, who I think could be St. Just. I've called him St. Juste just because, he's former Gophers, baby. You gotta love him. But at the end of the day, when you compile it all together, I really don't see a whole lot of weaknesses on this team. Offensive line could be better, yes, but it's not the Achilles heel in my opinion. I think I think they could make the playoffs with their offensive line again. I mean, I think this team got better, especially with how things went in the draft in the offseason. So, of course, yes, the most important position, the most important question is going to be the quarterback position. I realize they need a long-term answer, but I think Taylor Heineke, at least for the time being, maybe even for the next couple of seasons, could be their answer. And Ryan Fitzmagic is going to do his thing. We all know that. And they probably need to draft a quarterback in the next couple seasons, probably. But let's call it for what it is. The rest of that roster with the Washington football team is respectable and is coming together fantastically. And I think it's going to be the main reason as to why the Washington football team is going to go and take down some people next year. And I think it's going to be why they shock the rest of the league and make the playoffs again. I think they could definitely do it and definitely challenge the Cowboys in that NFC East division. But let me know. I always say that way too fast. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. Will the Washington football team shock the rest of the NFL? You guys let me know. Once again, make sure to like and subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. It helps people find the show. Also, remember to check out our website at the sportsbriefpodcast.com. Also, another reminder, we always put all of our links to social media and all of our handles down in the description below. Make sure you give us a like and a listen on iTunes. We greatly appreciate it. Also, remember to subscribe there as well. So, with that, go ahead, have a great night. Let's get ready for some football.